Welcome to the I Hate Critics Movie Review Podcast. I am professional film critic Sean Patrick. With me is Jeff.
Hello.
Jeff, where do they find your stuff?
JeffLassiter.com is my website. It's got links to all my wonderful Etsy store. I dug out a few of my Valentine Cupid Killer stickers just in time for Valentine's Day, so go get those.
Very cool. All right. My stuff is at geeks.media, horror.media, of course, all part of the Vocal family. You can find my stuff there, including a lengthy piece I did on the Vince McMahon scandal. It's a wrestling thing, Jeff. I'm a wrestling fan. I've long been a wrestling fan, and I decided to document everything that's in the current lawsuit against him, which accuses him of sexual assault, sexual abuse, sex trafficking, using a woman who to basically try and negotiate a contract with one of his wrestlers, using her as essentially currency in that negotiation. He's accused of a lot of horrific things. And while the 67-page document is one everyone should read, I thought it would be helpful for people if I put into kind of a timeline exactly how long, or exactly how this went down, and of course nailing down the various places where professional wrestling in the WWE programming was at the time, which sort of shows just sort of the callous disregard of everyone involved when it came to this particular scandal.
I don't get this. He seems like such a stand-up guy. I'm being so sarcastic. Sorry. Yeah,
I mean, I was talking to a guy who wrote a book, a woman who wrote a book about him, and we were talking about how Vince McMahon is the kind of guy who's been telling you who he is for years on television, and it's that classic thing: when somebody tells you who they are, believe them. Okay, this is a man who brought a woman to the ring back in 2001 and had her. At the time, he was in a storyline in which he was cheating with this woman against his wife, who was in a coma. This is part of a storyline.
Oh my God.
They were wheeling the wife around in a wheelchair wherever they went and making her watch as he was making out with this woman. But then he decided to punish this woman that he's supposedly sleeping with by making her strip nearly nude in the ring and bark like a dog. And he wrote that and showed it on television, live television. Like, this guy's been telling you he's a piece of crap for years.
Yeah. There's a reason I don't care about wrestling.
I swear it's much better than people like him. I swear to it. Let's see. Have you, so obviously, on to another topic you don't care about, football.
I care about Taylor Swift, though.
Well, this weekend is the Super Bowl, and despite whether you care about football or not, you do care about movie trailers and debut trailers specifically, because this weekend is going to mark, I believe, the debut of the Deadpool trailer, which is one of the most anticipated trailers of the year.
Yeah, I hope that the one that I saw was a fake one.
Uh-oh.
But we'll see.
I mean, they do have a tendency to start showing these things even before the big game.
Yeah. Somebody posted it on Twitter, and I watched it, and somebody was like, "Oh, that's fake," and somebody else was like, "No, it's real." And I'm just like, "Come on, I just want to know." Not that it was bad. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I wasn't like blown away. So I'm hoping that was just a fake one.
We'll find out on Sunday for sure. We will be hearing from Deadpool. We'll also be hearing for the first time about Wicked. We'll see actual footage from Wicked.
Hopefully Ariana Grande has learned how to enunciate once in a while. It's like she never met a vowel she liked.
This is not something I was aware of about her.
Oh my God.
Fascinating. It'll be interesting to see. I've heard a lot about Wicked. It feels like this has been in production for a long time, and now it's finally apparently arriving this year.
I mean, I love the stage show. I like the book. I'm hoping that it's something good. That's all I'll say.
We're also expected to see footage from Inside Out 2 and Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes as well.
See, like I said before, I'm looking forward to that, even though I know that some people aren't. I just like the Planet of the Apes movies.
They've been so good. I worry that at some point the quality has to decline. It just mission creep has to set in at some point. And that's my fear, that this is going to be the time when that finally happens.
Well, this one looks like it leads up into the old Charlton Heston ones. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting from that. So who knows?
I guess that's an interesting idea, but again, like I said, it's been around for a while now, and these things just tends to happen where the quality's got to dip at some point.
Yeah. Well, Jason Clarke won't be in it, so that's good. Not a fan.
Oh, why? What is the problem? Oh.
I don't know. It's his face. I'm sorry. That's mean, but he's just got a punchable face.
He's got a resting bitch face. He does.
Yeah.
Literally that was his entire character in Oppenheimer.
Yeah, he's just somebody that I just don't like watching him on screen. I think that was one, aside from knowing the twist in the Pet Sematary remake, the fact that he was in it was already a strike against it. So, but that's just me being weird. As usual.
We got coming up on the show, we're going to be talking about Dario Argento, the movies of Dario Argento, and our kind of takes on two of them specifically. But first up is Argylle, the new Matthew Vaughn film that Jeff didn't know was a Matthew Vaughn film.
It's true.
You literally missed every marketing of this movie.
You know what? I saw the trailer, but I wasn't paying attention to it because I thought it looked like a Matthew Vaughn movie, and I don't like Kingsman movies. I saw the first one, and I was like, "Oh, I guess I don't like Taron Egerton." And then I saw the Rocket Man one, or the Elton John movie, and I was like, "Oh, I kind of like him. Maybe." And then I'm like, "Nah, I don't want to." No.
I like the first Kingsman movie. I thought it was pretty good. The second, or the prequel, is completely off the rails.
Yeah,
it's weird. There's like a scene in that movie that I had to pause the movie and write an entire article about this scene. I'm going to tell you about it. Basically, they're fighting Rasputin, like the legendary Rasputin.
Yeah.
And like Rasputin gets a cut on his leg, and he like requests Ralph Fiennes to lick it. And I'm like, why is this happening right now? And he wants him to lick this open wound on his leg. And it goes on like that. And you're just kind of left baffled as to why anyone would put this into a movie. There's just never any explanation for it, why it's there, other than the twisted mind of Matthew Vaughn.
Oh, God.
So, yeah, I wrote like 2,000 words just about how upsetting that series of scenes was.
Interesting.
Yeah. Did really well, too, so I'm very happy with that. But Argylle stars Bryce Dallas Howard as a shut-in best-selling author who writes books about espionage. And as happens in a movie, she finds herself drawn into an actual espionage plot when she goes to visit her mother, played by Catherine O'Hara. She's kidnapped off the train by a spy, played by Sam Rockwell, who explains that her books are actually onto something in terms of being actual spy stuff, actual espionage plots. She seems to have knowledge that perhaps she shouldn't have. And from there, people are trying to kill her, and they're trying to stay alive and trying to figure out exactly what this plot to kill her is all about. There are things I actually like about this movie. I like Henry Cavill, which is weird for me because I used to hate Henry Cavill back in the day. Back before Batman versus Superman, I thought he was the worst actor on the planet. He did a movie with Bruce Willis that is just unwatchable. He is amateur in that film, and it was just that colored my opinion of him for a very, very long time. But he's really gotten better. I think the Superman experience really turned him around in terms of being understanding that he's a movie star and not an actor. I think really helped him a lot.
Yeah.
So it kind of let him be a movie star as opposed to trying to be an actor, which I think is a far better place for him. And that certainly proves out throughout the rest of his career, including this movie where he plays the fictional Argylle character and the secret agent. And like I said, I thought he was good. John Cena was fun. I thought that was a really clever idea. Then the actual plot, Sam Rockwell jumps in, and he's really engaging as well. And I like Bryce Dallas Howard. Overall, I just like all these people, and that's really what kind of makes me appreciate this movie. I think there are probably maybe just one or two twists too many, and certainly by the end credits, which we'll get to, as we're going to do some spoilers on this one. We'll warn you. By the end, it's maybe two or three twists too many, so it keeps it from being like a really, really good movie. But I didn't mind it. I kind of enjoyed it.
I did too, actually. Not going into it not knowing that it was probably a Kingsman movie. I like Bryce Dallas Howard. She's also a terrific director. I like everybody in it, and that was the thing. I was like, oh, okay. I also learned today that Cinemark has apparently gone from 25 minutes before of trailers and commercials to 20. Because I showed up 20 minutes in and it was already going. So.
Oh wow.
20 minutes. It was at 10:40 and I showed up at 11 o'clock and it was had already started. Which is fine. I didn't miss anything that I hadn't seen in the trailers. But I like everybody in it. I mean, even Dua Lipa, I thought she was fine. And yeah, I think the only problem I really had with it was every time you turn around, there's a new twist and another twist and then a twist upon a twist and then a twist upon a twist. But I thought overall it was well done. It was there are a few little things that bugged me, like when she's sliding around on all the crude oil, doesn't have any oil on her. I'm like, oh, okay,
that's a fun scene though.
But
she's also ice skating on knives or something. Like it's really dumb. But
I mean, come on, this is a total just stupid action movie that doesn't. It's not supposed to be high art, and it's not by any sense of the imagination high art. But it was fun. It was engaging. It was it reminded me. Remember the movie Foul Play? With Chevy Chase and Goldie Hawn?
Kind of.
It was that kind. It's like that kind of silly caper or Jumpin' Jack Flash with Whoopi Goldberg, where the normal woman gets brought into this convoluted plot and spy caper. It reminded me of those kind of movies from the 70s and 80s, and I appreciated that. I thought Bryce Dallas Howard was better as the author who was suddenly thrust into this. Not and then she it took her a few minutes to kind of find her footing, and maybe that was just the character, but it took her a few minutes, in my opinion, to get her footing as a spy. And I don't know if that was by design or if it was just the tonal shift or what, because I mean it boomerangs between tones throughout the last half of the movie.
Yeah.
Is it sad? Is it funny? Is it scary? Is it, that was my only real issue, is I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about these people.
Yeah.
Who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy? Oh no, they're the bad guy. No, oh maybe they're the good guy. That kind of thing. So.
And it does that again one too many times by the end.
Yeah.
Especially like the final moments. Spoilers from here to when we start talking about Dario Argento. Basically that we've come to find out that Argylle may be a real person somehow, and that she was actually a spy named Rachel Kyle, and she'd lost her memory or had her memory taken from her. But there is Henry Cavill shows up at the end, all weird, and then we cut to the credits, and suddenly the Kingsmen arrive, and it's like, what? Wait, I'm confused. Are the Kingsmen real in this universe, or are they part of the book she wrote? I couldn't. That desperately eluded me. I wasn't sure if the intention was to say that the Kingsmen were a real thing in this universe, or were the Kingsmen made up for her book?
Well, that's what okay, so the after credits scene is supposed to be a young Argylle, Agent Argylle.
Right, who doesn't exist.
Who doesn't exist, who goes to the Kingsman bar that I think is a gay bar, because if it's not, the bartender was, because he was hitting on young Argylle, calling him babe and stuff. So I'm a little confused. And I was thinking at that one point when you figure out that she's Argylle and he's, what's his face? John Cena's character.
Mm-hmm.
When you figure out that she's actually Argylle and he's that guy, that I really thought, because of they were having a romance, that Argylle and his partner were going to have a romance too. And I think the only thing that stopped that is probably John Cena didn't want to make out with another guy. and as was revealed earlier today, Henry Cavill thinks that sex scenes in movies are not really okay.
Oh, well, I don't know if you saw that.
Yes, the execrable Hollywood Reporter broke a story this afternoon where he said he didn't care for sex scenes in movies.
Well, good for him. So he doesn't have to do it. So
right, yeah. I mean, the only time I don't care about a sex scene in a movie is either A, it's a straight one, or B, I'm uncomfortably watching one with my parents or my nieces.
I think sex scenes in movies are fine as long as it makes sense that this should be here. Like if the whole point of the movie is to be, to show off how super horny everything is, then poor things. I think every one of those sex scenes matter. I do.
Yeah. Maybe he saw that and he was just really embarrassed. Maybe he saw it with his mom.
Like the nudity in Oppenheimer, absolutely necessary. I wrote that. I wrote an article about that.
Yeah.
I'm deadly serious about that. You can incorporate nudity or sex into a movie and make it matter. It's when it doesn't matter, when it's obviously gratuitous, needless, and doesn't belong. That's when it becomes a problem to me. And that's a thin line. It's a thin line.
Yeah.
But it goes back to, again, the what used to be the definition of pornography. I know it when I see it.
Yep. Well, I mean, it's one of the, like I was talking about writing with somebody yesterday, and how I'm writing something right now, and it's fiction, and that I should put a sex scene in it just to fuck with people because it's got a gay protagonist, and you know how straight people are about gay people sex. But I feel like I think they're silly when you read them. You know, just some of them are so just stupid and silly, and he thrust as her bosoms heaved, and all that stupid florid language. I think it's dumb. But I think that movies and TV, it's a way to shorthand a bond. People, especially in weird situations, like when you're watching The Terminator and they have sex, and you don't realize until the end that it's very necessary for them to have sex,
right?
But it's that trauma bonding kind of thing,
Yeah. But it makes sense for these two characters. They're in this very difficult situation. That they're going through a lot. It makes sense that they would bond, even if bonding in this case is getting down to it. It made sense in that movie to have that happen, even before they reveal the necessity of it.
But like if I don't know, if you're watching like American Fiction and Jeffrey Wright just randomly hooks up with Issa Rae, that would be dumb.
You got to set it up. You got to set up your movie to involve something like that. It has to make sense, as always, and anything really, not just sex, but like just about anything you include in your movie should make sense for being there. And if it doesn't, then it shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
Which just kind of brings us back to the Kingsman thing. Why is this here?
Yeah, exactly. I get like, okay, so they smash cut away from that, and it's Argylle book 1, the film, and I'm like, is that in the movie? Does she getting a movie deal, or are we going to see? Is that his new franchise, the Argylle series?
Yeah, I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell what that meant. I was so confused. True. I mean, I didn't care. Like, I don't care, but I at the same time, I was trying to understand if then if the entirety of the Kingsman universe then just exists in Argylle.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't.
Is that but that's thrown into an odd. That's kind of an odd question when you consider that Samuel L. Jackson is a villain in the Kingsman universe. He was a billionaire. Right. He was a billionaire terrorist. I think it was the first or second movie. So having him be here in Argylle as the head of the secret CIA, it sort of makes that all very, very weird.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. It's like a snake eating its tail.
Yeah. By the end, he's already twisted us so far that it's he's gone too far. I think even before Henry Cavill shows up as a character in the real world, I think even before that, we've reached a point where we've kind of twisted one too many times, and it hurt my enjoyment of it to just have these, like, the twists just seem to be the point at a certain point, which we'll also get to when we talk about Argento. But it's one or two twists too many by the end, even before we get to those last two truly needless twists.
Well, I mean, I thought it was going to go somewhere completely different when we got with the first twist that her dad was the director.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to go somewhere completely different. And I'm like, how are they going to get out of this? But when they did, I was like, oh, okay. And, shooting Catherine O'Hara and then bringing her back and then, it's just shooting her again, doing all this stuff. I'm like, come on. Who do where am I going with this?
Mm-hmm. And then when she shoots Sam Rockwell in the chest, they're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And the convoluted way they get around that is, I admire it. I admire it almost just because it's so silly.
So to me, it's like, it's silly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of too clever for its own good.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, remember the end of Halloween H2O when Jamie Lee Curtis cuts off Michael Myers' head?
Yeah.
Perfect ending, right? How are they going to bring him back? And then they bring him back, and I thought at the time it was clever, but now I'm like, oh, it's too clever. It's, she actually, he switched the mask and put it on a guy, like, and put him in the back, and it wasn't really Michael. And I mean, it's that little bit of, it's too clever by half. And, at first you're like, oh, and then you think about it, you're like, come on. But as soon as they did that, and she said, well, I got an email from, somebody who said I could bring this other character back in the
Yeah.
next book, I was like, oh, that she's already alive. That's the twist. Another
Yep.
twist.
Adriana Dubose.
Thank you. I was just like, come on. I don't know. I enjoyed it the whole time. I enjoyed it. And then it was like the twists overstayed their welcome just a couple times. So
Definitely. Any final thoughts on Argylle?
Fun fact, the cat, which I was led to believe before I watched this was completely CGI, is not. It's actually the cat of Matthew Vaughn's wife, who is Claudia Schiffer. Fun fact.
I thought the cat would have more of a role to play.
Well, so I realized that some of the stuff from the trailer where the cat had the little cat case thing that they took from Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
That was at one point in the trailer had a broken window on it.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, the cat's not going away. The cat's going to come back at some point, because when they left the cat in the apartment, the little glass bubble was intact. So I'm like, okay, I know it's coming back at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I enjoyed it. I
did too. My enjoyment could be tempered by one thing, though. Have you heard the rumors about who wrote this?
I don't know about the rumors. I just know that it was Jason Fuchs, according to,
and then I don't know where this rumor is coming from, but apparently this is based off of a book that hasn't been published yet. And the book was actually written by someone else. And the theory goes that the book was actually written by J.K. Rowling under one of her pseudonyms.
Mm.
But also there's an equally credible rumor that says Taylor Swift wrote this. So who knows? I don't understand any of it.
What can't Taylor Swift do?
I mean, I think if that had happened, they would have put that out there. They might have sold more than 18 million tickets.
I'm going to honestly say I used to hate Taylor Swift.
Yeah?
I am now a Swiftie. I actually started watching Miss Americana the other night.
Yeah.
When I laid down to bed, I was like, you know what? I've got Netflix for another few weeks. I'm going to just see. And I turned that on and I was like, oh no, I can't fall asleep to this. I have to watch the whole thing. So.
No. I'm
just going
to drink in the tears of men crying every time she's on camera on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm going to my sister's for dinner on Sunday, and I think what I'm going to do is, make like some Taylor Swift recipes or something to celebrate the Taylor Swift Bowl.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I think everybody should.
Like lavender haze cookies, shake and bake it off chicken wings, anti-hero sandwiches. I don't know, something. Cruel summer squash.
Any more puns?
No, I'm done.
All right.
Sorry.
My favorite TikTok video right now is just this little 3-year-old girl. She's got a Chiefs jersey on, and her mom asks her who her favorite player is, and she goes, Taylor Swift. It's the most adorable thing ever. Yes, honey, that is your favorite player. Good job.
Yeah, I do. I know what you mean. I love watching guys get all pissed and, the fact, did you hear about how people were, especially like all the gay guys I follow on Twitter, were all pissed that she didn't like bow down and kiss Celine Dion's feet and then saw off one of her hands for
Oh,
not
for fuck's sake. Yeah, I
hugging
saw
her, or
that.
what, just like all that bullshit. Celine Dion doesn't like to be hugged in public necessarily, because who knows what could happen in front of millions of people.
All right. Spoiler alert over. We can move on to our other new movie this week, which is Panico. It's a documentary about the life and career of Dario Argento, and it takes us through his entire career and interviews directors who he's influenced over the years, and goes some great behind the scenes footage, conversations with his people who've worked with him as cast members and crew members, and it's a very insightful documentary that has a lot of very interesting moments. But for me, the most captivating moment is an interview with Cristina Marsillach, who stars in opera.
Yep.
And this interview is fascinating. She begins the interview by talking about how Argento is like this father figure to her, and how much she admires him. And by the end, it's like she's telling us about this horrific psychodrama that she's been through the entire time working with him, and how it was actually hell on earth for her to try and deal with him. And he was a petulant child, like throwing ravens at her during the making of the movie. And it just reminded me of like Argento being like a villain in his own movies. Like it's a short form Argento movie. Just watching her do that interview.
We're going to talk about opera, and she is. I bet now, if she were to do a role like that, she would be much, much better.
Mm.
But I don't know if not having that experience with him, she would be where she is now, as far as like in her psyche.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was kind of the highlight and the low light of Panico for me.
Yeah,
because I knew that was a thing. I knew that they had famously fought, and fought is the, because she didn't really fight back.
No, his was one-sided.
Yeah, he basically treated her like shit throughout this whole movie. It was like Hitchcock and Vera Miles,
Mm-hmm.
So,
but it speaks to, though, the way that Argento directs movies and the effect that he wants to have, which is panic, which he wants to induce panic. He wants to go beyond merely scaring you into making you like fidget nervously and feel like a genuine anxiety about your own existence.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And I found that to be in the way that they allow him to address that himself directly about how he feels about fear versus panic. I thought that was a tremendous insight into what he does and how he does it.
Yeah, that I think that he is far more insightful about what, who he was as a director in the 70s and 80s than who he was as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And his movies they kind of speak for themselves as far as I'm concerned, but knowing some of the behind the scenes dramas that happened and all that weren't even in Panico, just they kind of speak a little more to the man that he was at the time. So
yeah, what they address and don't address the relationship with his daughter, and specifically how he directed his daughter in movies where he's directing her in these sex scenes that even she goes on to describe them as having an electric complex, which is I thought I appreciated her candor. At the same time, this does not shine a good light on him.
No, he is, it's like the artist is brilliant as an artist, but fails as a human being all the time. And that's him and Woody Allen and, you know, like all these creative idiots, you know, assholes. So
people who believe that cruelty is a necessity in art. For art to be great, someone has to suffer, is the belief that many have. And I just don't see that. I just don't believe that's true. I don't believe that suffering is absolutely necessary in every case. Argento disagrees quite vehemently.
Yeah.
He famously, like I said, talking about, I don't want to talk too much about opera because we're going to get to it, but he talked about how throwing ravens at Cristina Marsillach, he was intending to induce the effect that he wanted. He wanted to create actual real fear on her face and get a realistic fear response from her. And he felt that this was the only way he could get it, by completely torturing her. In mocking her, he would mock her over. We'll get to that. The movie does a great job of placing him in the context of his legend. I think the interviews with Guillermo del Toro and the other director, Nicholas Winding Refn, talking to them about having them talk about Argento and what he does, I thought that was the most truly insightful in terms of his filmmaking.
Yeah. I think that, you know, like, he's influenced so many people, like Guillermo del Toro. I could watch an entire documentary, just Guillermo del Toro talking about his influence on him. Like, literally just 2 hours of, well, here's the, you know, talking about Del Toro talking about Argento's movies.
Mm-hmm.
You could make a series out of it and just like show, you know, like do commentary tracks for all of his films. I would love that.
Because he would have something very insightful to say about all of them, as he demonstrates here. He's probably the standout interview subject for sure. I think he's got the most definitely artistic insight into Argento.
Yeah, I agree.
I think this is a very good documentary. I do think, like I said, the stuff about his daughter that the movie they're definitely trying to avoid. They have to address it. It does come up, and then it's not in depth. But I think, again, going back to his daughter Asia, she's very candid. I mean, she mentions having her losing her virginity on the set in one of her father's movies. In a scene in one of her father's movies, which is absolutely insane. That is not something that should happen to anyone on a movie set.
Agreed.
And here it's a father directing his daughter.
Oh yeah, just so creepy.
But we're still making documentaries, you know, celebrating him. So here we are. We're making an entire podcast celebrating his work. So
she's got a troubled reputation as well.
How could she not?
You know, she was famously with Anthony Bourdain.
Mm-hmm.
They were together when he unalived himself. I don't know if we can say committed suicide here. But, you know, then she was in trouble for some inappropriate stuff with a minor, apparently, after that or during that. And I was just like, does anybody know what the fuck this girl has gone through in her entire life? You know, like, just this being and I'm not excusing anything she may have done or whatever. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that she grew up with this like psychosexual torment that her father put her mother through, and you know, like all the stuff that happened to her and her mother on his sets. And how could she not have a fucked up view of the world?
Right. I believe the stuff with the minor was I believe that's related to one of the movies that she directed, where she was said to have basically done to this child what her father did to her on sets.
Okay.
The Anthony Bourdain thing is so overblown. I mean, he had his own mental issues going into that relationship. It was two severely, damaged human beings being damaged together. And I
Yeah.
think the documentary Roadrunner was a little bit unfair in kind of almost assigning blame to her for what happened to him.
Oh no, I'm not even talking about that.
Yeah.
I'm talking about basically the stuff on with the son or the younger guy.
Yeah.
She got a lot of shit for Anthony Bourdain,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think that it was personally don't think it was justified.
No, I don't think so either.
I think that nobody, especially somebody like him, nobody kills themselves just over something rash that over a fight.
Yeah.
It's much deeper than that. And I don't think that, I don't think it was fair to characterize it as she drove him to suicide.
No, it's definitely not. And that has been the narrative so often when men, do things to themselves. There's always there's somehow a way to blame a woman for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All too typical a narrative, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Well, if okay, so bring it back to Taylor Swift. If the Chiefs
drops a pass on Sunday, it's her fault.
Yeah, if the Chiefs had lost the championship and didn't go, it would have been her fault.
Right.
And now because they're because they're going to the Super Bowl. Or can we say the Super Bowl?
We've said it already. So
okay, well, sorry.
Deal with it, Bob.
If they lose, if they win, it's because it's a psyop created by the government. That's literally something that is out there right now. She's not talented. It's just a psyop by the government so that she'll come out during the game and endorse Biden.
Yes, of course.
Obviously, And the Chiefs are here like, yeah, fuck my drag,
I mean, this narrative, though, of what women do to men, I think you might be able to speak to this. Madonna was blamed for problems that Jose Canseco and Dennis Rodman had in games where she'd had sex with them the night before and then suddenly they weren't good the next day. That's such nonsense. Such bullshit.
Oh, Dick Tracy wasn't a huge blockbuster, so it was her fault. It was she put a spell over Warren Beatty. And he shouldn't have put her in the movie, but she created some sort of witchcraft. I'm just like, oh God, come on.
Yeah. No, it's just a lot of straight up misogyny. Men being afraid of women who have any kind of power.
Yep. Absolutely.
Panico, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, speaking of Madonna, I went and saw her in Chicago, and she talked about a league of their own, and how she learned baseball, and then she sang "This Used to Be My Playground" live for the first time ever.
Oh wow! Oh wow!
I just had to put that in there.
I would have thought she'd done that before.
No. So it's movie related, right?
Yeah, vaguely. All right, Panico is on Shudder for anybody who wants to see that movie, that documentary, all about the career of Dario Argento. Shudder's, by the way, terrific spot for documentaries, regardless of what you think of the directors. They did a great William Friedkin documentary. I'm not the biggest Friedkin fan, but other than a couple of his movies, but they did a tremendous documentary on him. They've got a number of really good documentaries on horror directors on Shudder that people should check out.
There's also Queer for Fear, which is a documentary series.
Oh,
that's really good. You should check it out.
That's our advertisement for Shudder. They are not paying us for this, but if they'd like to pay us for this,
yes, Shudder,
we welcome it.
Get at me.
Speaking of horror and Dario Argento, we watched a pair of Argento films, and Let's begin with The Bird with the Crystal Plumage from 1970. It was a huge hit in Italy in 1970 that was basically his feature film debut of sorts. I think he might have done something before that, but this is the one that broke him out mainstream and made him a celebrity director in Italy. It stars Tony Musante as a man who's in over his head, caught up in a murder mystery. He's an American writer living in Italy temporarily. He witnesses what he thinks may be an attempted murder. And while trying to save what he assumes is the victim, he gets trapped in between these two glass walls and essentially is left there to watch this woman nearly die. He's eventually then believed to be a suspect in the case. They take his passport. They tell him he has to stay in Italy. And then they turn the case over to him to investigate. And that's where the movie kind of loses me, Jeff. Because why did the cops step back on this serial murder case and essentially turn over all the evidence to this fucking guy?
I wish I had an explanation for you.
It plays almost like a parody of American movies where we've got the American hero who, does what the cops can't do. But this is before like Charles Bronson and even before I think Dirty Harry. So it really does. I'm not sure if this movie came out in 1980, it would be like a very funny idea. But here it seems like this has to be serious because I don't know what else to explain it. It is partially, of course, influenced by Hitchcock, which Hitchcock essentially invented the idea of a regular person who gets into a situation well over their head, and uses that to create a suspense thriller. And that's certainly the influence that he's working with here. But I don't think even Hitchcock pushed things as far as Argento does here with the way that this guy turns himself into a detective to begin investigating this case.
Yeah, it's been quite a while since I've seen this. I had to choose this or opera, and I haven't seen opera in 40 years, so I watched that. But like a lot of the Giallo movies, the basically Italian slashers, and that's what he's best known for, is that kind of movie, the black gloved killer moving, and seeing things from their point of view. Those always, to me, they seem like, and a lot of his movies seem like he's trying to make an American movie, but he's got a completely different style, and he'll occasionally put people, from American movies in these Italian slasher movies.
Right.
And I think that it's not necessarily for I don't know if he's necessarily going for a broader appeal, but they do come off as kind of sometimes pale imitations of Hitchcock or, American slasher movies, even though, like The Bird with Crystal Plumage, that predates, most of the slasher genre.
Right.
So I think that's one of his trademarks, though, is that almost seeming like, what would an American do in this position?
Yeah.
So
I got to say one thing about this movie that really impressed me, and I think it shows he is an incredibly talented director. He's got an amazing eye, and some of the stuff that he crafts in terms of visuals are absolutely stunning, regardless of making sense or not. But the main thing that really struck me was there's this opening sequence where we're introduced to a victim and the killer, and there's this wonderful simplicity in the edit where he shows this woman walking down the street alone, kind of oblivious to all the things around her, not really concerned about anything that's could possibly happen to her. And then that smash cuts to the killer with the black gloves choosing a knife.
Mm-hmm.
And the simple marriage of one image to the next, that kind of simplicity, you would think that would be something that would be constant among horror directors or constant among good directors, but even that type of simplicity is often missed out on. And just that simple marriage of image via one single edit is just it just demonstrates so much talent.
Yeah, the best thing to me about his movies, the storylines don't always make sense. Some of them are a little hackneyed as far as the writing, but the style is always great.
Yeah, I think for me, like Suspiria is style over substance for me.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of style, and if you admire the style, then you probably admire the movie.
Yeah. Which I do a lot. The visuals in that movie just alone are worth the price of admission. You would have
thought that Luca Guadagnino could do the same thing, but you're wrong.
But his whole thing is just a reimagining of it.
Yeah.
Do you know the story behind that?
I just know I didn't care for it.
So when they said you want to remake Suspiria, he was like, yes, but I don't want to rewatch the movie. I want to just remake it from what I remember about it. And he hadn't seen it in 30 years. So he did. And I personally love they're completely different movies.
Mm-hmm.
But I love both of them for different reasons. So
I did not, but that's just me. But
well, you're an idiot. I mean, that's cool.
But I do like a lot of The Bird with Crystal Plumage. I think some of it is very good. I do think like a little bit like Argylle. It has maybe one twist too many at the end, but by that, but there's enough there for me to recommend it and say it's worth checking out if you enjoy a good suspense film.
Yeah, I agree.
Opera from 1987, starring Cristina Marsillach as a woman who is drafted in to replace the opera diva at an experimental version of Verdi's Macbeth. She is the understudy. The main actress, the main singer, is injured in a car accident and cannot perform. And this one gets drafted in. And this leads to the discovery of her tragic backstory. Her mother had a relationship with someone years earlier that will now come back to haunt her daughter in this day and age with a killer who forces her to watch the murders that he commits of people that she knows. And really that idea is really the only thing that stands out to me about opera overall is that eye torture device, the needles on the eyes. It's the main image of the marketing. It's really the main image that stays with you after watching opera is that little bit of blood that trickles down out of her eyes. She's got these needles taped under her eyelids, which Argento famously made fun of Cristina Marsillach for having to go through 2 hours of makeup to achieve that in a way that was scary but safe.
Yeah. He would have been happy to just put them on her and let her bleed.
Yeah. Just tell her don't blink.
Yeah.
That was his plan, was just tell her don't blink. And she's like, no, I would prefer that we're able to do this safely.
So for me, the best thing about opera is that visual of her, eyes with the pins underneath them, and the visual of the ravens. I just the way that they're used, and they're doing Macbeth, the opera, and they're the chorus. They're like the chorus of Macbeth, just kind of observing everything. And I really, really dug that. She is not an actress. in this movie. She was not, but I don't think that that's all her fault.
Mm-hmm.
I think a big part of that is him and her advocating for herself and him not liking that really shows.
Yeah.
You can tell that by the end of the movie, the stuff that he's doing to her, you can just tell it's like he just does not like her. It's like watching a Rob Zombie Halloween movie. He does not like women that aren't named Sherry Moon Zombie. It's knowing this going into it. I saw this on videotape on VHS. I rented this from the little local video shop in Princeton, and I was so excited, and I was like, oh, it's so cool, and watched it, and then completely forgot about it until I started, seeing the thumbnail of her eyes on Shudder, or wherever, whatever streaming service, just kind of flipping through it. Oh yeah, I should rewatch that sometime. And it was completely different than what I remembered. Like I did not remember the ending of it.
Yeah, the ending is
the tacked on ending.
The ending's terrible. I mean, honestly, the we get to the end and like you think you've seen the villain of the movie die, and then he's not dead, and it's a very silly, very convoluted off-screen explanation of how this person might have escaped this situation that was clearly unescapable. Just so they could tack on one more ending for no good reason, and because I guess they wanted to kill one more guy.
It's like Argento's Argylle. Twist upon twist upon twist.
I like the concept of this killer, like a killer who needs to have an audience to kill. Yeah. Like that's a clever idea, and that's actually a really great idea, but I just don't think that overall the movie it overstays its welcome. It's kind of shapeless at times, where it's just sort of drifting along. The death of Dario Nicolodi's character takes forever. That scene lasts a fucking lifetime, and I didn't want to see her go because I did enjoy the character, but at the same time they dragged that out forever.
It's just it was unnecessary. You know what? I just completely unnecessary, and he insisted on it.
Yeah.
The studio was like, "You don't need it," and he was like, "No, we totally need it." No, you don't, and it doesn't even follow. Like it doesn't even follow his MO of having to have an audience.
Yeah. Yeah.
He just
Yeah, because she can't even see it at the time.
Yeah.
The poor blocking.
Oh my God.
I mean, they're still like, it's Argento, so at the very least, this is better than most horror movies, just because he is a visual stylist, he's an auteur, he's a visionary. At the very least, there's always something interesting happening, as opposed to 90% of modern horror.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely style over substance, but after a certain point in each of his movies, the style is the substance.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Suspiria is all style, and the style becomes the substance. And I think after Suspiria, most of his movies are the style is the substance.
Mm.
And this one is that, a lot, because he can't direct her, and she's not a seasoned actress yet. And, he was another thing kind of pointing to him wanting to make American movies. William McNamara is in the movie. He's the first victim that she has to watch die. Mm-hmm. And do you know who was supposed to play the diva that she replaced?
Oh, yes.
Vanessa Redgrave.
Yeah, Vanessa Redgrave, yeah.
And she was going to have a much bigger part, but she had to drop out.
Yeah, that character did seem sort of shuffled off a little too quickly.
Yeah.
There's like a version of the script that she's definitely more a part of, and her anger over being replaced is part of.
I think what might have been kind of cool is if the killer, whose name I can't remember, I don't remember a lot from this because again, style over substance.
Yeah.
Might have been cool if he was her son,
Yeah.
and
His age makes no sense to me. How was he a child when he first became a killer?
I don't, it doesn't
it doesn't track, because he looks about her age, Cristina Marsillach's age.
yeah.
Like, isn't he positioned? He's kind of positioned as a love interest at a certain point, uh, and then suddenly he's the guy who was there, killing people in front of her mother years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Makes no sense to me. But I think, again, Argento didn't so much care about that. He cared about creating a premise, and he cared about creating a series of visuals that appeal to him, and kind of ideas that appeal to him that might turn into something.
Yeah, I think he's a very visual filmmaker, and I feel like that's how he's just filming storyboards and hoping that they fit together somehow.
Yeah.
Some of his stuff and some of the scenes in all of his movies seem like he storyboarded something and then got the storyboards mixed up and just filmed something that was cool and then filmed another thing that was cool, and they don't really work together, but he just put them together.
Yeah. No, that's definitely true. But
Yeah.
like I said before, though, I think a bad Argento movie is better than most modern horror movies.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree. With very few exceptions, I can get on board with that.
All right, Jeff. Any last thoughts on Dario Argento?
Watch Suspiria if you haven't watched it. Don't fuck with Asia Argento. Let her be. I don't. I mean, you either get him or you don't.
Yeah.
You either like his style and appreciate that about him, or you don't. He's not. He's a great filmmaker in that visual style, especially the giallo film style.
Mm-hmm.
He could never make something like The Irishman, you know what I mean, or
Right.
Killers of the Flower Moon. I would not want to see Dario Argento's Argylle. I just
yeah.
Although Matthew Vaughn and him do have that style over substance kind of thing in common.
Certainly.
But I wouldn't want to see his Killers of the Flower Moon, or although Dario Argento's Barbie, absolutely going to be there on day one. First in line for that. God, could you imagine?
Oh, I no.
Greta Gerwig's opera, and she okay. This is Greta Gerwig could make opera, but Dario Argento could never make Barbie.
Yeah, that's accurate. All right, Jeff, I got to wrap up, but thank you. And next week, we're talking about Frankenstein. Lisa Frankenstein is the new movie in theaters, and we'll be talking about Bride of Frankenstein and breaking down some of our favorite Frankenstein's monster stories from over the years. So that'll be...
Really, really, really hope I can get a guest pass to get in to see that movie, because it does not look appealing to me whatsoever. And I don't know if it's Catherine Newton, who I don't know. She's kind of like a female version of Jason Clarke for me.
I like.
I don't know. We'll see.
I'm interested. We'll see. It's coming out this week, and we'll have it for next week's show. Jeff, thank you.
Thanks a lot.